EP Magazine's annual Summer Fun issue has articles that focuses on fun activities, as well as helping reduce or avoid academic or behavioral regression over the summer. The disruption of familiar routines, environments, and limited access to school-based and other support services can be difficult for some children, especially those with special needs. Read it today at www.epmagazine.com.
Oscar Mike Radio is a proud podcast partner of Reach Across America Radio, heard every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. They're also big supporters of the nonprofit I Got Your Six, Two Lives at Once. And with every wreath you sponsor through Oscar Mike Radio, $5 goes back to this great organization dedicated to making a difference in the lives of veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders battling PTSD. Two Lives at Once pairs these brave men and women together with dogs rescued from kill shelters. In this way, two lives are saved at the same time by saving each other. Donate now. Go to wreathsacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio to help. That's wreathsacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio.
Suicide is preventable, and each of us has a role to play in suicide prevention.
Suicide is complex. There is no single cause.
And it's not always a mental health issue. It could be loss of a job or home, financial or relationship issues, pain, or leaving the military.
Suicide does not discriminate. It affects all ages, races, and genders, veterans or not.
If you know a veteran who is struggling, connect with them. Let them know help is available.
There is quick and easy access to services in times of crisis.
Dial 988, then press 1. Talking about it is okay.
Don't keep it inside. Don't be ashamed. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. My name is Travis. I'm your host. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hubuzoo Network. You can find out more on hubuzoo.com. I want to thank my sponsors, Joyce Asack of Asack Real Estate, Mark Holmes, Army National Guard veteran of Reapers Detailing and Power Washing, and my supporters, Exceptional Parent Magazine and Kason Shaving Company. Thank you. I love it when I get multiple guests on a show. It's like a 2-for-1. It's like a bam bam bonus. This year has been great. And again, the theme of this year is the power of relationships, the power of relationships. And nothing is more powerful than a veteran and needing help and finding an organization that supports him. And my next two guests really embody that. I want to welcome Ty Baras, Army veteran, and Brendan Butler, CEO of Retrieving Freedom, to Oscar Mike Radio. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Travis.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
No
the opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Ty, we got connected through Laura, and Laura told me a little bit about your story and what this meant to you and how your life has changed because of Retrieving Freedom. And then, we're going to talk with Brandon later about some of the particulars of the organization, but kind of start us off and tell us what it's like growing up in the Midwest, joining the Army, and we'll start there.
Gotcha. Well, I grew up in Burlington, Iowa, small town, not too small, but pretty small. And basically, when I turned 18, I wanted to get out and see things. and I wanted to get away from the small town living. So I joined the army. Uh, I joined the infantry, and that was back in '87. And I served in the infantry for on active duty for 4 years. And during that time, I served in Desert Storm 91 with the 3rd Armor Division. And so
Now you served with an armored division. Does that mean you're supporting tanks as an infantry unit, or were you actually in armor?
no, 3rd Armor Division was a armor unit.
Okay.
We were teamed up with the armor units. So I mean, we were in conjunction with. So support, yeah, we supported them, but they also supported us. You know, we each battalion had like a tank platoon or something like that attached to us.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was
Okay.
a team effort.
The reason I ask is a lot of people think tanks just sit out there by themselves and, but they're supported by infantry. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, there was the 5th Battalion, 5th Cavalry, and we had the 232 armor attached to us, and so we had quite a bit of both. And plus, the infantry units that had was the Bradley fighting vehicle. So,
Oh, nice, nice. So you do all that. Now, how was your army experience?
my army experience. The first 4 years, like I said, was infantry, so it was tough. It was hard work. I mean, being in the infantry, I mean, it's not for everybody, and it was tough. You know, lots of field problems, lots of exercises, and then of course towards the end of my infantry career on active duty, we got sent overseas. You know, and it was during the time of the Cold War. Uh, it was very interesting, and we were stationed in I was stationed in Germany when we went over to Desert Storm, so it was snowing on the day before we left for Saudi, and when we got to Saudi, it was like 105 degrees or something like that outside. It was just like night and day, but it was interesting. I loved my time in the infantry, and I loved my time in the army.
You got out of the army, right?
I stayed. Well, I got off of active duty and I
Yeah.
went to the reserves,
Okay.
and I stayed on the reserves from 91 to 99, and then I went back active duty for the Army Reserves.
What was it like going from active duty to the reserve unit?
Oh my God, it was crazy. I'm used to daily inspections, having leadership up your butt, if it's okay to say that.
Yeah.
But it was crazy. And so when I went to the reserves, it was like night and day. I mean, that it was laid back. It was I guess you could say fun. I mean, it was definitely a whole different world in the
Yeah,
reserve.
sure. Sure. But everybody comes in the military and then everybody gets out, and I get out my own way and everybody gets out a different way. What was like, leaving the army, leaving the reserve and like being a full-time civilian again, Ty?
Oh, it was definitely weird. Going in, being on active duty for that long, and then going to civilian work in reserves. I was, I was having a hard time. I was drinking a lot. That was one of the main problems. Was when I got off active duty. Anybody that's been on active duty knows that when you're not in the field, you're back in the barracks drinking. And so it kind of continued when I went to civilian life. It kind of hurt me in civilian life because it was interfering with my civilian job. Um, but I got through it. But it was tough. The transition is never easy,
Yeah.
and I can understand like nowadays it's the same way. Transition, going from uh, any military service to civilian life, it's difficult.
It's really weird just to, and then we'll move on that. I don't know about you, but I liked being in the field a lot more than being back, you know, in garrison and the barracks. I mean, I didn't mind the field at all. It's when you're back in the barracks where, the NCOs and staff NCOs and officers have time to mess with you and make life really interesting. And guys are getting drunk, getting in trouble.
Yep.
It's just, I like being out more than being back in garrison.
Oh, I love the field too. But when I moved to Germany, that's when things went really crazy because with half the time you're in the field and the other half the time you're in the barracks, but you're in Europe. So it was a blast. So I mean, you had both best worlds. I mean, best of both worlds. You had the partying and stuff like that when you were back in garrison, but then in the field you had your buddies, you had the camaraderie. I mean, it was just yeah. So like me, Germany was heaven.
You get out and you start adjusting back to civilian life and, reading your story and learning about you. It seemed like, yeah, there were some challenges. There were some, bumps in the road you had to deal with. And then you had to deal with all that and then find retrieving freedom. How did that go, Ty?
Well, when I went back on active duty in '99, I joined the reserve unit, and I was on active duty for the reserves. And in 2004, we got deployed to Iraq. I was with the 308th Quartermaster Company at that time. And then in 2006, I got deployed with the 1016th Quartermaster out of Pocatello, Idaho. And the big transition didn't really happen until 2016 when I retired from the military period. I had 22 years active and 7 years reserve, and that was my big transition because I've been in the military for so long, and then went in seeing combat with those two units. When I got back home, I was kind of lost, especially when I retired because I've been in the military for so long. That's all I knew. I
Right.
knew the military,
Yeah.
and so when I got off of in 2016, I was bouncing around different jobs. I really couldn't find a place, couldn't find myself. And I went down a path that was really bad. And so I I had to get some help.
Okay.
And my family and my friends saw that I was in desperate needs. They caught me in time before I did something stupid. And they got me help. I went through the VA. I was still having a hard time. I was getting help. I was still having a hard time, and somebody had, I think, at one point, somebody had a dog or something like that, and mentioned service dogs. So I thought I'd do some research and check it out. And one of the first pop-ups was Retrieving Freedom, and Retrieving Freedom was just starting basically, and it was a really great organization. And a lot of veterans will tell you, I don't need help, don't want help.
Yep.
There's other people that deserve it more than me. That's for sure. And that was me. I was like, there's people out there that are more deserving than I am. I shouldn't get a dog. But talking to Retrieving Freedom and my family, they said it would be a great idea and try it. So I did. And I went up there, applied through Retrieving Freedom, and got accepted. And I don't regret ever going up there because they were such an amazing group. I mean, they took care of me. They helped me through the process. They were they understood our situation. They were, how do I say this? They were very accommodating. That's the word I want to accommodating with, especially our situation. Um, and they, they had other veterans up there going through the same process, and so you could talk to each other, and it really did show me that I could use a dog, and I love my dogs that I had before, so and they always made me happy, so I thought let's try it. And so I went up there, and from the time I started to the time I got my dog, it was amazing. And I have never, I love my Wrigley. My Wrigley is my best friend. My wife hates that part because I always say that she's my best friend. But Wrigley is. She goes everywhere with me, and she saved my life. And I retrieving freedom helped save my life too, and I can't thank them enough. That's why I go on talk to people like you and go out and about and bring up retrieving freedom, because they are a nonprofit and they run off of donations, and so I help them. I do whatever I can. I go wherever I can and preach the good word of retrieving freedom.
You just heard that, Brandon, and you're the CEO of Retrieving Freedom. What's that mean to you when a veteran or someone who has, taken advantage of one of your programs has that kind of testimony about the services you provide?
Personally, it means I'm in the right place, doing the right job. I'm new to this role, so I just started in January. And I have to say first that I personally am not a veteran. My father was a veteran and my grandfather was a veteran. And growing up, I had two very different stories. My grandfather was a World War II pilot, shot down over India, survived, had an unbelievable experience in the war, truly of that greatest generation. My father was 19 years old and married to my mother, helping take care of her mother, working full time for his father, and going to school at night at Purdue Calumet, thinking he had enough credits to be diverted from the draft, and instead was wrong, thanks to a college counselor, he says, and was in the last draft class ever. He didn't have to go to Vietnam, but he ended up having to be an MP in a base in Tennessee and guarded prisoners coming back and other things. So he felt like his life had been interrupted, and he did his 2 years, he did a good job, and he got out and never even really talks about it. So going into the military wasn't an option, really, in our house. It was, you're going to college. And that's kind of what happened until I was with my grandfather on 9/11, and he was dying of cancer, and we were in a fishing camp up in Minnesota. He was in the cabin, and I'd gone out fishing that morning, and I was listening on the radio as the towers were hit. I went back to camp, spent the day with him and some other old timers, most of them veterans, in a fishing camp saloon, listening to them tell stories about this comparison to Pearl Harbor. And I got all fired up, and I went back to Purdue, and I actually went to a Marines office and talked to them about signing up. And their suggestion, and I hear all the time, like, you must have talked to a really good person, because their suggestion was, go back and finish your senior year of school. This is September. In 9 months, you're going to graduate from college, and then come back, and then, we'll enlist you or enroll you as an
What?
officer. Yeah.
A Marine recruiter told you that?
Yeah. That was
Wow.
that on the Purdue campus in West Lafayette, Indiana. Yep. Right after 9/11. So I went back to school, and, then all the horrors started, and I knew a family who lost a son, and I think my mentality just changed, and I didn't do it. And now looking back, it's a pretty big regret. I really wish I would have served. I even looked up a couple of years ago if I was too old to join the National Guard. I'm too old to join the National Guard. That really hits when they're like, no, we don't, you're too old, man. Like, we don't want you now. So I feel like, given this opportunity to serve folks like Ty, folks like yourself, those who have put it all on the line for this country, it's an incredible responsibility, and it's an incredible opportunity to do something that matters. I did some work about 10 years ago for the family that is really our major benefactors, and that's the Hayden family out of Sedalia, Missouri. They own and operate Starline Brass, which makes premier premium ammunition brass for handguns and long guns. And I ran into Bobby, who's now the CEO, at a football game, at a Mizzou Tigers football game last October. And he asked me what I was doing these days. And, I had run as executive director or CEO, the state's largest conservation nonprofit for 5 years out of Jefferson City, the Conservation Federation of Missouri. So I had nonprofit leadership experience, but I'd gone into renewable energy, and honestly, the financial side of the renewable energy piece is what attracted me there. And then the cutthroat nature of the business and everything really ending up being about the financials was what made me want to look for something that had, a little more meaning. And Bobby caught me at the right time. He said, "Come down and see this facility." So I did. I went down to Sedalia, and I think just by the grace of God, there was a veteran and his wife in residence. So we have a wing of our campuses. So we have a campus in Missouri and we have a campus in Iowa. Ty's from up in Iowa.
Okay.
And when you come to our facilities as a client, everything is taken care of for you. We have very nice rooms, full on suites, private bathrooms that you stay in. All you got to do is get there. So I went down to the Sedalia facility, and Ivan and Mary Jo were in residence. And Ivan is 75 years old. He was a machine gunner in Vietnam. I actually did a podcast with Ivan from my own podcast, and he talked about openly. He's like, I killed my first man when I was 19. I killed my last man when I was 22, and there was lots of them in between there. And now those people haunt them. And, I think I learned quickly from him that issues with PTSD don't necessarily get better with time. I think the common average person would suspect that. I think I suspected that. You think, well, time heals all wounds. Well, not always. And for some people, it gets worse with time. And that's what's happened with him. But what really got me, like what really tore my heart out, I mean, I literally stood there in tears. And I looked over and Bobby had tears in his eyes too, is when Mary Jo started talking about what it's like to be the family member or the service provider of somebody dealing with these mental health issues. And the fact that she loves her husband as much as she does, I mean, it makes us all just wish for that kind of love in our life. And how she has provided 43 years of service to him, never leaving his side, not wanting to leave the house to leave him alone, not being able to engage in her church groups the way she wanted to for fear of leaving Ivan home alone. And then they found retrieving freedom. And now they have a dog named Arby. And because of Arby, she has her freedom back as well, or at least much more of it. And that was really the light bulb moment for me. That's when I said, I have to do this. I'm being offered an incredible blessing and an opportunity to be in this role. And every time I meet one of our clients that have been long established, like Ty and a number of others, it's incredible to hear the work that this organization has done. And I just hope we can, improve upon what we've already done and grow, because our waiting list is at 44 people right now. I mean, there's so much more demand than there is supply. And as Ty said, the only way we can provide these dogs, which have over $50,000 each in training, to these veterans for absolutely free, is through the generosity of corporate support, individual support. And hopefully we can get some government grants in the near future, although we don't have any that we're operating on right now.
So Ty, you come to Retrieving Freedom. Thank you, Brian. And you start going through the process. What was that like? How long did the process take? And what was your kind of like approach mindset as you're being, I don't know if this is the right word, Brandon, bonded to the dog?
Yeah.
Well, when you first start, you got to go through the Retrieving Freedom trains you up first. So, like the first year, 6 months to a year, depending on your availability, they work with you. You train with all kinds of different dogs. None of them will be your service dog at first. So you're getting prepped. They prep you. They train you, um, so that when you do get a dog, you're ready for it, and that you can be a better handler, I
Yeah.
guess you could say. Um, so, and now during my time, COVID hit, so mine got interrupted for quite a while. But when I went back and started up again, that's when they started the placement process. In the placement process, they start putting dogs that you might get that might get placed with you, and they start training you and the dogs to see which dog fits you or which dog you and you get to work with. I'm sorry, but then uh, once you find a dog, and I'll tell you a quick story.
Sure.
Wrigley, when I went up there, it was getting close to like my second or third time back, and this one day they brought three dogs out. First dog was great, but there was no connectivity. Second dog, awesome dog, but no, didn't really connect with. The third dog was Wrigley, and Wrigley came out running. She saw me, came running to me, and was just all over me. And when that happened, I knew. Wrigley knew, I knew, everybody in the room knew that Wrigley was my dog. And after that, I couldn't wait to get Wrigley back home. But you have this process, they once you find a dog, they go ahead and the first time is a weekend with the dog, then a week with the dog, and then a month with the dog, and then placement, something like that. And when I brought Wrigley home, it was amazing. My dogs, my family fell in love with her. She was an awesome dog, and still is. She's an amazing dog. That was the placement process for me.
Yeah, what
So
Ty doesn't know is we were very adamant that Wrigley go to a person in Iowa. There was no way we could have a dog named Wrigley down here in Missouri with all these Cardinal fans. So
I was going
we
to
set him
say,
up pretty good. We set him up.
so what's it take? How do you evaluate if a dog, Brandon, is suitable for training? And how long does that training take to get it ready for the person in need or veteran?
So it's about a 50-50 washout process on dogs that we bring in. So a lot of different service dogs do it a lot of different ways. I do want to acknowledge the fact that one of the things that sets Retrieving Freedom apart is that we're ADI accredited, meaning we're accredited by Assistance Dogs International, which is the largest really trade organization of assistance dogs throughout the world. So we have a really high standard of protocol for our dogs. There's only 87 accredited organizations in North America. So if anybody's looking for a service dog, that's a question you want to ask, because only ADI dogs can be covered by the VA. And I think Ty can maybe explain a little bit more about that. But we have our own breeding program. So we have a number of female dogs that we have a process of breeding, and they've been selected based on great genetics and health and all the tests being passed. So hopefully they have great healthy puppies. Those puppies go into what we call our foster program. So they'll stay in house until they're roughly 3 months old, and then they'll go into a foster program where they're going to come out of that between a year and a year and a half old. And while they're with those puppy fosters, and these are people that have a big place in their heart for our veterans, we also serve children with autism and dogs. So if anybody is thinking of a way that they may be able to help with this organization, being a puppy foster, it's an amazing responsibility and role, and you get to play a huge part in placing these dogs. But anyways, the puppy fosters have basic training that they provide to the dogs. Your sit, heel, all those commands that can be taught through a reward system of treats and such. In that process, we can usually figure out if a dog is going to be conducive to going on to service, because they have to spend a lot of time in public. A really, really well-trained service dog is going to go on an airplane and not make a peep, can do all the things that it's supposed to do. And, to be able to get them through that entire rigmarole of being integrated into families, being around other animals, being around other people, being in public, being on transportation, that's really where a puppy raiser can help us. So once a dog seems like it's going to make it, we push it into really our phase 2, which is bringing it back into the facility and then starting to work with, potential clients. And as Ty said, you work with a lot of dogs throughout your time. And that's really so you can learn how to become a handler, and how the dog can learn how to be handled by numerous different people. So it's about a 2-year process to get these dogs ready and prepared. Think about it in the sense that you wouldn't want to give an unruly teenager to somebody to handle. And that's why the dogs have to go through such a long process and gain maturity to be ready for the services they'll provide.
Wow. One of the things that comes to mind is, you know, I hear organizations giving out emotional support animals and service dogs.
Yeah.
It's my understanding for both of you, question for both of you is those are two very different things. And it also, well, let me ask that first. So for your case, Ty, an emotional support dog wasn't really applicable. You needed a true PTS service dog. And then Brandon kind of followed that up with telling me the difference between emotional support and a service dog, because a lot of people get that confused.
Well, for me, an emotional support dog really didn't fit because also I have other disabilities, like I have chronic back pain, uh, PTSD, anxiety, um, things like that. And Wrigley was trained to help me with that. Like Wrigley will pick up if I drop my cell phone, she'll pick up my cell phone, my keys, cane, whatever I drop on the ground, she'll pick up for me as long as I tell her to. And also, she's trained to brace for me. Like if I'm in a sitting position and I say brace, she'll come up to my front and hunker down, kind of, so I can brace myself, get up. So a service dog for me is a dog that does certain tasks, and I'm sure Brandon will cover that here in a second. But my dog can go everywhere possible that I can go, and that's what the big thing is. She does tasks for me to help me out, and so I'll let Brandon cover the difference between the three.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So as an industry, something that we are very mindful of is the rules aren't really in place to govern the service dog industry as a whole. Because right now, if the three of us, let's say we're all living in an apartment complex that says, you can't have dogs, no dogs allowed. We've all seen that when you're, trying to get a place to rent or something, no dogs allowed. And you say, well, I can fix that. For $129, I'll go online right now and register my dog as a service dog. And 15 minutes later, you'll have a certificate that you can then pass to that landlord, who then has to accept your dog. And that's just unfair to people like Ty, who have gone through the whole process. They have a dog that's actually going to behave, in public. So getting that fixed to where you can't just claim, that you have a certificate that allows you to take your dog into public or break a landlord's rules and have a dog is something that we got to figure out how to address, because emotional support animals are important as well. I mean, I have a Labrador retriever, and he's in no way registered other than just being my dog, but man, he supports my emotions all the time. I think just having a pet does that for us. um Willie can definitely tell when I'm anxious or anything like that. So what is a proper way to regulate those sort of animals, and what separates those sort of animals from true service dogs for people that have been diagnosed with a need, is something that has to be explored, because right now it's just not being taken care of properly through the government.
So
Let me
one,
jump in real quick,
yep,
Travis. I something that happened to me when I first got Wrigley. I went to an event and I had Wrigley, and she was in front of me and laid down on the ground, and she was didn't move. She just kept on watching me and didn't do anything. The people in front of me had a service dog too. That service dog was jumping all over the place, was loud. Uh, Come to find out, that dog never had any training. The people that were there, they just slapped a vest on and called it a service dog. And that's the difference right there. People will go out there and uh, have their personal dogs without any kind of training be a service dog, which that's where I think Brandon was going with the regulation, is people are taking advantage of it. And it gives real service dogs like Wrigley a bad name. So, and people, when you're out and about and you see somebody with a service dog, and that service dog is jumping all over the place and barking and just not behaving, that puts a bad light on all service dogs because they think that's what a service dog is. When in the reality, a real service dog is well trained, well behaved, well taken care of, and is truly a life saving tool for whoever has that service dog.
it's a specialized piece of equipment that, is very personal to you, but serves a function.
Absolutely. Veterans have what's called a tool bag, right?
Right.
You have the VA, you have your family, you have your church, um, you have therapists. For me, I have my service dog. All those tools in my tool belt help me basically stay alive. And that's where a lot of people don't understand what a service dog, what the capability of that dog is,
Well,
and that's to save lives.
the reason I brought it up was for that reason. You all kind of answered the question before I even asked it. But in my area, there was a quote service dog close quote that acted up in a meeting, and it turned a lot of people off to the aspect of service dogs. Like, what he's wearing the vest, he's got the patches all over it, but is jumping on tables and jumping on people. And enough people there knew that this dog was not supposed to be doing that, and it really caused problems. And that's my concern, that this resource is going to not be taken seriously. You
A good
got
service dog, a good service dog, you won't even know the dog is there. When I go
yeah
to a restaurant, when I leave the restaurant and people see the dog was under the table, they go, "I didn't even know you had a dog." And that is why it's so important to get the word out about what a real service dog does. That my Wrigley will sit there under the table, be good, leave the food, won't bark, won't do nothing. And if you don't know that the person has a service dog, that service dog is doing his job.
nice.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where people are probably just going about this thinking it's a victimless, I'll call it a moral crime. There's nothing illegal about it. You can go online and do it, but morally, you are victimizing people like Ty, and you're victimizing an industry that truly serves a role by essentially impersonating it. And that's gonna, as you said, cause people in public to see what you saw in that meeting with that dog jumping around, and they're gonna have a negative belief in something that can really be life-saving, absolutely life-changing for the people that truly are in need and go through the correct steps and processes.
Doing it this way takes a lot of work just to get the dog ready for someone like Ty. But one thing I'm noticing with your organization, Brandon and Ty, I kind of want you to speak to this, is there seems to be a lot of support for the person after they get the dog. It's not like you just, hey, here's a dog, here you go, yay. It's like we want to make sure that the dog is bonding with you and everything is right. And if there's a problem, that's the impression I get. And I wanted to kind of explore that because some orgs, stand up there, they gave away the puppy, they gave away the dog, and then you never hear from them again. So what was the reason for that kind of approach, if that's applicable?
Well, the approach, retrieving freedom doesn't stop when you get the dog.
Okay.
Every year, retrieving freedom sets up a time uh, that you have to go and get public access tested. And so even I'm on my third, fourth year with those guys, and every year we go out, we go to a public place, and they test me and Wrigley to make sure we're still compatible, make sure the dog's still being taken care of, making sure the dog hasn't lost its training, because that's a big concern for retrieving freedom is making sure that that dog is still doing what it's supposed to do, which is help you and be an asset for you. And so they make sure that they stay in contact with the veteran autistic child. They check the dog on a regular basis a year, and also if for some reason later on, or if the dog is like medically retired or can't do his job anymore, retrieving freedom will give you another dog. So like when Wrigley retires and she can't be a service dog anymore, or she gets injured before then and can't do it, retrieving freedom will step in and provide another dog. And the process is a lot simpler and quicker when that happens.
You move to the front of the line.
What's that?
You move to the front of the line.
Right.
So I know you're kind of new to all this, well, relatively new, Brandon, but what was Retrieving Freedom's purpose for being that involved in the person's life after they got the dog from you? Because some orgs are not. You got the dog, if you need something, let us know, and hey, have a nice life. Whereas this is a lot of investment and resources on you all's part.
Yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of Retrieving Freedom is to change lives for the better. And then to stay engaged with these folks, it's, professionally important, but emotionally and personally too. We're like a family. That's, man, I get texts from people every day that make me want to like just choke up. I mean, texts you don't get from people in the corporate world. Like I've never bought a TV from someone and sent them a text like the ones that I get from these clients. It's very, very inspiring and motivating. And, I haven't had much opportunity to meet or talk with Ty yet, but we're developing what we call our ambassador program. So Ty is an ambassador for Retrieving Freedom. And I'm going to bring the whole group together, hopefully this fall in a camp setting and really start to build this ambassador family as well. I was on a riverboat cruise for a fundraiser on the Mississippi River on last Thursday night. And we had a 10-year-old autistic girl and her mother on that cruise with us. And this was for a Delta waterfowl group of duck hunters and like macho men. And I brought Hannah onto that boat, and the mother told that story, and it moves people, man. I mean, the way that this improves individuals' lives and the lives of those people that care for them and are around them. Like Ty, I'll put you on the spot right now. Like I venture to guess right prior to coming to Retrieving Freedom, you would have imagined yourself doing radio shows and podcasts and being like this much out in the public eye.
No, matter of fact, I was isolating, and most veterans will tell you they don't want no part of it, and that's what I was doing. I was isolating, and now that I got Wrigley, Retrieving Freedom's got me helping with the ambassador program. I'm out and about. I'm talking to people, and even if I wasn't doing the ambassador program, I'm more out there. I've started like a support group for veterans. I go out there and people, see me and Wrigley and they ask about Wrigley and they find out more. It's really put me out there. And that's one of the things that helps me with my therapy is getting out there more and helping people and talking to people and telling the good word, preaching the good word about retrieving freedom, you know. But that's I'm a lot better off now than I was before Wrigley.
Nice.
So it's like right now we're in gardening season, you know, like people are planting a little seed and watching it sprout into, a plant. And that's what it's like. It's like we're planting these seeds of hope and watching it grow in these people and watching them change and knowing that there's a good chance their life wouldn't be going the way it's going now in this positive direction if they didn't have this dog, this constant companion. I think of a woman that just got her dog, and she was a veteran with a traumatic brain injury, had severe PTSD. She came into the facility unable to make eye contact, from what I understand. I wasn't there for the beginning, but I was there for the end. And, she was, as Ty was talking about, like completely isolating herself, like no interest in the outside world, no interest in communicating to people, didn't want to look you in the eye. Fast forward now, she's got her dog. She started a YouTube channel, so she like is trying to help other people, and that's what every time I hear someone say what Ty just said, like I just created a support group. It's like that seed grew into this like beautiful plant, and now that plant is dropping seeds and spreading hope into these other people. And I mean, man, it just even thinking about those words coming out of my mouth and being able to spend this part of my career working on that, it really puts life in perspective. Also on the autism side, I've got two daughters, and they're exceptional kids. They're healthy and they're happy and they're doing good in school. And one's in college and one's still in high school, and it's kind of like just taking a minute to be thankful for waking up every day. It's like we overlook the little things, and I don't think I spend enough time being so thankful that my children don't have special needs. Because when you have a child that has special needs, it becomes all encompassing. And with these parents that have these children with autism, it's a 24/7 job. These kids require so much special attention. You can't ever take your eyes off of them. They don't have like the filters that will keep you from just lunging at the shiny object. So for example, like if you're unloading groceries in the driveway and your child is there and they see something on the other side of the road, they don't have that like mental filter to say, I will wait for traffic to clear before I run. They're like shiny object, go. The dogs can actually be tethered to these children. So they become their like constant companion. So if the dog were to feel a child like jolt or bolt in a certain direction, that dog hits the ground like an anchor. And now that child can't go.
Wow.
And I mean, potentially saving that child's life. So, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to know Ty and to know these people. I mean, it, it's just, it's very, very gratifying to hear him say those sort of things, and then to see him spreading it out into the community further. That's the cherry on top, man.
Nice, nice. Well, all Sundays when we eat them come to an end. So as we wind down this wonderful conversation, Ty, starting with you, you have Wrigley. You came from a place of isolation, and now you're out telling people about this amazing program and these people, your family who support you. I gotta ask, what's next for Ty as you go through the next part of the year or next year, do you think?
Next for me, continuing on with the ambassador program, uh, going out, talking to people, bringing awareness. Um, a lot of my focus now is like my support group that I have here in town. I help with the military council, the Veterans Council. Um, Basically, going out there and trying to reduce the suicide ratio in the military. Right now, it was 22. I think it's down to 21 or 20 now per day of military veterans and soldiers that commit suicide. You know, spreading the word and trying to help those soldiers and veterans to not take their lives, to know that there is something to look forward to uh, say you're not alone. So that's my job, you know, and one of the things helping them treat freedom, spreading their word does that. You know, I can go out there and spread the word about retrieving freedom and maybe stop one person from committing suicide. You know, I was that guy. I was almost that guy that did it. I was almost a statistic. And so now going out there and helping other veterans, that's where I want to see myself in the future. Helping veterans or even just helping people in general stop stopping suicide.
So helping others is helping you, and retrieving
Absolutely.
freedom kind of helped you get going there. Brandon, I know that you have the ambassadorship program coming, or it's almost launched, or in the infancy of launch. What else is going on for retrieving freedom in the, the next fiscal year or time frame?
Well, you want to spend all your time focusing on these individual connections with folks like Ty, but at the end of the day, we're a business. And like any business, we've got financial concerns, we've got operational concerns. So stepping into the CEO role in an industry that I had no experience in. So I mean, I've had labs my, last 10 or 15 years as duck hunting dogs, but I'm not a dog trainer. So I'm drinking from the fire hose, trying to figure out everything that we need to do. And we have had ambassadors. It's just not been a real formalized program. So getting that formalized and getting them some training, like, God bless Ty, because we haven't ever sat him down and said this is how you do a radio show or anything like that. These guys just jump on and they jump in with both feet. So I want to start supporting them with some resources, like materials that they can have to take with them to events, and some tips and tactics on interacting with the media and stuff. So that's a big one. Getting more financially sound. I mean, we're a 12-year-old organization at this point, really been placing dogs for about 10 years. And there's been growing pains like most startup organizations. They've been through a few different iterations of leadership. I plan to dig in and figure this out and get it on good footing. I can say after 5 months, I have no interest in going anywhere. Like this is a challenge with a reward like I've never experienced before. I mean, I truly feel like it's God's work, and I'm very very eager to partner with folks like Ty to spread the word and make sure more people know about it. So, with that, my job really does come down to kind of setting the course, defining the culture, and figuring out how we raise enough money to move forward. And if there's anybody out there listening that would be interested in supporting retrieving freedom, we've got all kinds of different ways that you can donate. One thing that we're doing right now is we're creating a business alliance. This is like a special membership category for corporations. It's $10,000 a year. We're a 501c3, so there's tax benefits for that. If there's any businesses that are looking for a charity to support and would like to help save and change veteran lives, we'd love to talk to you. At the real base level, a lot of nonprofits have memberships. You think about like a Delta Waterfowl, they charge you $40 a year. You get, a magazine for that. And that's kind of a common practice. Well, it's that $40 times however many hundreds of thousands that pay the administrative fees and keep the lights on in the building, keep the dogs fed. Your major donors are really wanting to work more on programmatic stuff. So we're trying to institute a base model of some fundraising where anybody could give, $10 a month, which that
Sure.
adds up and helps immensely.
Quickly.
So we're launching a challenge coin program that's going to be coming out in the next, it'll be out by the time this airs. So we'll have a challenge coin program where if you commit to giving $10 a month or more to the organization, we'll send you a challenge coin. It'll be numbered from 1 to 1,000. And then your challenge is to get the next person to do it. And we want to track and see how far these different challenge coins can go, and then give prizes and have some rewards for folks that move their challenge coins forward. So I think that would be neat to show a strong network of small donor support. And then to continue to learn how to do our operations better so we can place more dogs. You know, the way Ty went through it, he went through it where you kind of come in for a few days, then you're off for a few months, and you come in for a few days and you're off for a few months. And I've kind of experienced this through my own private pilot's license process. Like I got my pilot's license, but it took me like 2 years to do it. And I kept wishing I was one of those guys that could afford to just go to one of those schools where in 14 days you come out of it and you're a pilot. Well, I recently had an auditor come in that was 30 years in the industry, and he said that there's opportunities to do group trainings to where we'll have dogs prepared, and then we could bring Ty and 5 more veterans in and, you know, and run them through a 10-day process. So it's kind of like just shifting the assembly line a little bit and speeding up the process. And if we have clients that match that kind of a timeline, you know, we could bring them in. They'd have some brotherhood in being together in that time. And then they would all leave with their dogs, assuming they pass all the tests and graduate. So we could start placing out these blocks of dogs, 3 at a time, 6 at a time, and really get more people the dogs that they need to change their lives.
How can people contact or connect with Retrieving Freedom?
It's retrievingfreedom.org, and that's going to be the best way. My personal email is just brandon@retrievingfreedom.org. You know, I encourage you to check out the website. There's a few videos on there. Like everything, when you take over an organization, you know, you see holes. I'm working on the website. I'm hopeful to have a more robust content creation aspect of it to where we're sharing more stories. People need to hear from Ty. People need to hear from our other ambassadors. So we're working on a lot, man.
Well,
It's
like
full
I
steam
said,
ahead. Full steam
uh,
ahead.
well, Ty, I just want to tell you, I mean, you know, I don't know how many podcasts or shows you've been on. You just were great and very,
My number one.
oh, this is your first?
Yeah.
It won't be his last, I
Won't
promise.
won't be your last. I mean, you absolutely crushed it today. You were just effusive and authentic, and I think people will connect with your story. And I think that's what people need to hear. I just love the aspect that Retrieving Freedom allowed you to get to a point where you can now help other people, and that's really powerful. You know, Brandon, just the power of relationships and the purpose to help those. It never gets old to hear about. So thank you for sharing so openly. So
Travis,
again, yeah, go ahead.
hey, real quick, one thing we didn't cover was the VA. The
Okay.
VA now pays for all the medical treatment for your dog. As long as it's a certified service dog, the VA pays 100%, pays for your insurance for your dog. So all medical procedures, medicines, you name it, whatever the dog needs medically is covered by the VA.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's a great point. Just real quick to add on to that. There are other service dogs organizations out there doing good work and producing some, you know, good dogs. But if those dogs are not from an ADI accredited service
Yeah.
dog organization, you know, then you're kind of gambling on what you're providing to this veteran. So you're taking somebody who's already got stress issues, PTSD, you know, maybe even something more severe, and then you're giving them this dog that, you know, God forbid it gets cancer or it has some kind of very bad, you know, physical accident or issues. Thousands and thousands of dollars in expenses can stack up, and you know, that's adding a significant amount of stress level to people that don't need any more stress. And our dogs, as ADI accredited dogs, and the other, you know, ADI organizations are, as Ty said, covered by the VA. So it's going to take you a little bit longer to go through the process probably for an ADI dog, but you know, you're getting what you pay for, and you're paying nothing. So it's a good deal.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you know, this year's theme has been about relationships and growing together and going further together. And you heard it right here. Retrieving Freedom is one of those kinds of organizations. Ty, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing so openly, and Brandon giving us a different perspective. I think it turned out really cool that we got to hear both sides of the same coin together. And gentlemen, I just wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and thank you for coming on Oscar Mike Radio.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Travis. Appreciate it.
Well, I will have all the information to Retrieving Freedom in the Oscar Mike Radio show post. You heard it right here. Please, please, please consider supporting what they're doing. As we say in Oscar Mike Radio, we're mission in flight. Thank you.
Well,
Remember, Honor teaches our mission. We care about it, and we do it every day. But I think there are things that just hit you and give you a reason to go on. The theme for our 2024 for Reach Across America is Live with Purpose. It just seemed to fit in with the vows of the REAP, the 10 attributes that we feel represent our United States military. I thought, what a great opportunity to put those two things together and show our kids through how we act some of the things that can make their lives better, their communities better, and by doing that, the country better. For me, Live with Purpose, I think, it's a mindset. Set some guidelines and then go out and purposefully make life different, make a change. It's an opportunity to set an example.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. Oscar Mike Radio is an oversized load Co-Sinister One production. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 988 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.